Hey, you. Yes, you, the listener. Before we start the show, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Producer Head only exists because of supporters like you who take this one simple action. It costs nothing and means everything to us as we continue to build this community together and bring in more and more top tier producers to share what they know directly with us. The bigger our community grows, the more we can all level up together. All right, I appreciate you. Now let's get into it. Yo, what's up? This is Toru, and in a way, so are you. I'm a music producer and host of this show, Producer Head. Welcome to my conversation with Designer Dreams, a hip hop producer specializing in sampling who proudly advocates for community everywhere. Designer Dreams is a Staten Island-based producer who has become a prominent voice in the SP404 community. Known for his old school approach to beat making and his commitment to community building, he's made a name for himself through his authentic sound and dedication to the craft. With that, please enjoy my conversation with Designer Dreams. What's up, everybody? This is Toru, and in a way, so are you. Welcome back to another episode of Producer Head. Today we have Designer Dreams. Welcome, man.
Thanks for having me.
You said something to me, man, when we talked before that I thought was really interesting, which is being a producer is not a stay-at-home job. Can you speak more on that?
Yeah, man. I love making music, and I think music is meant to be heard, not stored on a hard drive, because it's silenced to everyone who doesn't hear it. And silence is cool, and silence has its place. But when you're creating and you are proud of what you make, or you're making what you make in terms of your inspirations and your goals and your influences and what you're passionate about, it's worth sharing. And we live in a world where you can do that digitally, entirely digitally. You can upload to Spotify, you can get your DistroKid, you can do whatever, you can make your YouTube account. You could put out your hooks, but at the end of the day, what got me into truly producing and being inspired to keep producing was actually joining other producers, learning from other producers, hearing other producers work. Because I can make beats, and I didn't know if my beat was a good beat. Is my beat a good beat? Did I make a beat the right way? Does it sound like the doom stuff, the fly low stuff? Do people even listen to this kind of stuff anymore? Everybody loves trap out there. I don't make trap beats, but I went to actually just started collecting vinyl so I can make beats off of my SP404 after watching the Ninth Wonder Rhythm Roulette. And we had a local Staten Island beer company had a warehouse, and they would have a vinyl night, and I would come through and bring my vinyl. And they were like, oh, they loved hip hop. They were huge hip hop heads. They were like, you should play your beats. And I would play the stuff I made, and they were like, this is great. You should go to this event, right? And that's where it really started. Staten Island Beer Company sadly went out of business, but I did take a postcard that actually was for the Sampler at the time, still a major hip hop venue at that point, and where a lot of the beat shows were held. And that's where I found out about the Brooklyn Beat Syndicate. That's where I found out about all these in plain sight collectives and open auxes where I can play my beats for other people who are actual producers, actual hip hop lovers, actual disco lovers, dance lovers, EDM lovers, people who made music and loved music. And that's really what it meant to me and for me as a producer. I couldn't see myself today having never left the house and just being even motivated to make a YouTube and put my beats up there like SoundCloud and just upload and not do anything or go anywhere, not play, just have equipment in my house and make stuff. And to some, that's fine. But that's really what motivated me and inspired me. Meeting the homies, meeting the legends, um, going to gigs, being booked for my first official show. My friends were being so supportive from work and from my hometown. They're like, hey man, you have we went to Roll Roaster after something. And I was like, I want to play at Wonderville. I want to play at Donut Lounge one day. I saw that as so far in the future and so unreachable that I was like, man, if I'm ever that good, these real cats out here. Shout out to the Brooklyn Beat Syndicate. Shout out to In Plain Sight. Rest in peace to Yume, who we sadly lost a couple days ago. But Frenetic, Balake, Doc Brass, Big Chef Dog, I mean, really held it down and welcomed me. My first time out. Shout out to Nothing New, In Plain Sight, Swing Low. These people welcome me. These people were like, hey, you make beats? Great. Come through to the next one. Great to meet you. Oh, what do you use? Oh, you're an Ableton FL guy. Oh, I have my SP here. Oh, you're an SP guy. Cool. There are other SP people, right? It wasn't just instantly DAW wars. It was like, hey, this is really cool. You get to see people perform. I was like, what do you do in an open aux? You just like hook up like your sound equipment. Do I bring the wires? Do they have the wires? But like, I got to see Rex Mason. I got to see 1010. I got to see Frenetic. I got to see people do this thing. And I was like, wow. They brought their laptop and their whole thing and they like did their stuff and it was sick. I want to do that. And I kept doing it. And like, that community aspect is like so important, honestly. It's optional, technically. But why pass up the opportunity to learn, to grow, to contribute, to really have like they're a resource. They're a blessing, honestly. I have friends now there. Like that's you can't do that from home. You eventually have to leave the house, right?
The first time you did that and you saw that and you met those people, shout out because many of those people you mentioned, friends of this show. And so shout out to them for sure. And like after meeting them, going home back into the studio, do you remember how that impacted you or how that changed?
Well, now we're connected, right? When you make an actual connection, you're connected. I learned tricks on the SP404. I still have people perform with it. And I could watch that on YouTube. That's why I ended up getting one. Like the engagement that people had, seeing how people react to good beats. Like, I was like, all right, I heard some really great stuff, and now I'm inspired. I'm not out here like Mega Man, like, oh, I see something, now I can like match that and have that as a power. But like, you can learn and be inspired and apply it to your own style, right? So it's important to still be distinctive, have your own thing. Don't just like go see a show and start making beats like the last person you heard. You want to, that's fine. Creativeness in and of itself as an art form is like cool. If you can replicate stuff, then you're making type beats, then that's great. But it's like that inspires me to be accountable as well. Like, oh, I met people and I want to see them again. And if I play open aux, I don't want to play the same stuff. That's personally me. Some people play what they have, they make stuff at their own rate. Brooklyn Beat Syndicate had it every month. So every month I made sure to have like 2 or 3 more different tracks, and I took my 5 minutes seriously. I was like, I had 8 to 16 bars or something. And that was it. Because I don't have all the time in the world. I don't have a 20-minute set. But I had new stuff and people liked it. And I kept to my sound because now I know how people feel about what I make. So I can stay consistent. I can learn. I wasn't compressing my beats when I first started. I was throwing my kick drums and my snare drums in there and doing the best I could. I wanted to stay directly on the SP404. Some people I learned, not everybody does that. To this day, even with the new one, not everybody does that. Very few people do it. And learning how to create and then having like a reference point for like performance, work. Oh, how often do you create? Do you go to a studio? Do you just make stuff at home? Do you make content? Like I was inspired to share and to grow through community. That's what kept me coming back. And then it's just a feedback, right? It's like more people are meeting you, you're meeting more people. I got my first booking. They put me on a set list and I was the proudest person in the world. I wanted to have a whole bunch of music and I didn't because I had only just started doing this stuff. So I was constantly creating and I was pulling all nighters and I was still going into the office every day and popping energy drinks because I wanted to make music because I was so excited for my set. And a bunch of my friends from work came by, both for my open auxes and my sets. And that was it, man. I was like, I performed, I did this stuff. My parents like, so you're out here till 2 in the morning? I was like, yeah, man. I played my first show with like the SP, and they're like, wow, you're performing now? I was like, yeah, yeah. And you take myself more seriously as a producer. You might be like, oh yeah, I make beats, but like, I look back and it's like, oh, I performed here, I performed there, I performed with this collective, I've gone here, went to London, got to play beats back in November. It's like, no, I'm a producer, I'm a beat maker, and I love doing it. I love sharing it with people, and I can't see it as outside of being with those people physically.
These events and this community and like, having shows, it created this sense of like a deadline and accountability for you, right? Like, oh, I need to have stuff done by then. And so it kind of like sounds as though it imposes a bit of a pace, right? And then because you're going to be playing in the context of other people who are doing different things, it's almost like this kind of competitive thing, I think, that happens in that space where you're like, I want to step my game up in some way, right? Because you're not doing it for them, but you want to feel like you belong. And part of belonging is feeling like you're really putting something in to the middle.
For sure. I mean, I wanted to have my own contribution and coming correct, as it were, right? I don't want to show up to an open aux. And like personally for me, I felt like if I showed up to the open aux and then I showed up to the next open aux, but I didn't have anything new, there's no use in me signing up. And that's not true because you don't know who's at the second event that wasn't at the first and vice versa. And so I hadn't realized that then, or at least I wasn't paying attention to that. And I was like, I want to play this again. I was excited. I get that first exhilarating, nervous feeling of this is Aaron, and he's going to play some tracks. I hook up my machine. I get my levels right. I don't want to like be too loud or whatever. And you do it. And I was like, I want to do that again with the new stuff I made and see how people feel about it because now I have a feedback place. I mean, I had a SoundCloud, but I wasn't putting stuff up. I was new to it, and I was like, this is way better than just thinking my beats fire and then having no clue what people see or think about it on the internet. And just I wanted to grow as a producer because I was around people who did this way longer than me, and there's plenty to learn, right? And I think being around true legends in the space, true enthusiasts who have been at it longer, there's plenty that they contribute to people who are new, plenty that they can show that I can learn from. That's why I wanted to be around them. I was like, I'm new here. What am I doing for anybody else aside from contributing, right? I don't think anyone's in the point to learn from me yet, but like I knew some stuff. I had a sequencer on Ableton that I used to fire off chops on my SP. So I wouldn't have to constantly just play things imperfect because I wasn't a fan of the pattern sequencer. People didn't know about that, but I was able to share what I did know to people who didn't know it or could find value in it. Because I feel like contributing to the community is really what adds value both to yourself and to those around. Like everybody grows, right? And it doesn't have to be like a huge, being having to keep up with someone or having to always have new stuff. People are like, you always have new stuff. And I'm like, well, that's just me. I can maintain that cadence if I can, but it's not anything for anybody else to be obligated to, right? So there should be a healthy desire to grow in a community. Like when you're planted in the soil, you should expect to grow. You don't want to be down there and get nothing and then not grow because then you're just wasting your time. You don't need to be there. Whether you think you're established or not. But to be in part of that community, there should be healthy intention and contribution to growth, both for yourself and for others. Not necessarily to have more beats or have longer beats or have harder hitting drums or be outside more, right? Like everyone has their own cadence, their own pace. Everyone's their own person once they walk out the doors or turn off the sampler, right? But in terms of what you do in the community or in music or whatever, or even with your friends, maybe you're not even that active as a producer, but if you're in the space, like you should be a safe, healthy space where you're not getting sort of unwelcome or unwarranted pressure to do things outside of your comfort zone or that you can't maintain anyway.
Yeah, I'm curious about how, if at all, the way that you made music changed once you started to see people respond to it live.
I don't think it changed much. I think it stayed the same, but I really enjoyed people enjoying the music. And yeah, some people will, I mean, some beats have better reactions than others. Some of my beats from like 2021, 2022 are still beats I keep in my set. Why? Everybody loves them. They're the go-tos. They're some of my favorite first go-tos. And I love like set management was something I had to learn. I was like, now I'm no longer just throwing in open aux performances. I need to like have a proper set. I still want to have new stuff for my next set. I still want to have the really good stuff from my old set. But I have to then be mindful of my performances and what works and I wouldn't say a track didn't work, but like some tracks just hit harder and you keep those in you for your next set and you make new stuff. But don't be so influenced on the stuff that works that you keep making stuff just like it. It's like a DJ set of just all hitters gets a little draining and exhausting, right? Like eventually you're gonna just want to like slow down a little bit. And so pacing and being inspired to make what you make, right? You can't just make stuff for sets. Make stuff to make stuff and then put your set together. Even if I make a new track and throw it on that day, it's not like it only exists on the sampler for that reason. That's a track, right? So I've tried to be really good about balancing making stuff and always having new stuff for my gigs, no matter how often those gigs were. It got harder once I started performing a lot more frequently, But that's also why I want to still make intentional stuff outside. I realized I was making stuff for gigs all the time and not making stuff to make stuff. And I was still making stuff, but I didn't want like the only impetus to have an all nighter was to have something new so I didn't break the streak. I've definitely had those beats. And like they were still good beats. But I was like, all right, I need to take a break from performing and make stuff to make stuff. Or just make sure I'm staying authentic to my sound, staying authentic to my inspirations, and staying authentic to what people enjoy, right? I have an audience. I have people who are excited to see me play, people who enjoy what I do, join the community for what I do. And I think maintaining the integrity of the music is thankfully something that doesn't seem to have changed in terms of how I make music or how often fluctuates as it always does for people. But yeah, I don't think hearing my music and being enjoyed changed how I made beats. Like that process has stayed the same, regardless of equipment, what people think, etc.
How do you know when you're ready to play a show? Because I'm thinking about people maybe who are thinking about it, maybe have the opportunity to, or maybe avoid it because like I'm not ready yet. And I think part of the reason why I ask you about the stay at home, the producer from home, is because I think given like the environment, there's just there's really like a lot of things that allow you to kind of just I can stay in this room and put my music out into the world and exist that way and not have to and can maybe never see anybody really react to my music like in person or in real time, and that all of your feedback about music can be like seen on a dashboard.
True. And are you ever ready to play a show? If you don't think you are, no, but do it anyway. I didn't think I was. I told you I had to just sit and make music as much as I possibly could to fill my 20 minutes. Or maybe 15 minutes. I had my beats from Open Aux. But at that point, I was making stuff for Open Aux. I was like getting used to performing on the SX. I didn't want to like make anything tricky or hard. But performing is what helped me grow as a producer and as just a person in the community. Like being brave. I'm not a public speaker. I'm very introverted and shy. No one will believe you now, but that's a transformation that happened from being part of this community and people being like, yo, you're playing a set, you're doing like a full set. And I'm like, well, yeah. And then I would be more nervous and I would try to make more beats and make sure I would have like at least just enough, if not a little bit extra. And then I can, cut my set. I think I didn't cut that set. I had enough to fill my time slot or like barely enough. I might have been like, all right, I'm good. And I had like 2 minutes left or something like that. That's fine. It's all about balance. But in terms of people who think like, I can put together a mix, I can put together a beat pack, I don't have to go outside and actually play this stuff out live, I don't need a sampler or whatever. Yeah, sure, fine. At the end of the day, you don't. But you're losing out on feedback that you can't see on a dashboard. You're losing out on an audience that you can't just grow digitally because they won't bother to hear it. They'll have to take word of mouth. And hearing it from the source is way better than someone else's recommendation, right? Like if you like something, have it because you heard it, you tasted it, you felt it, you saw it, right? Not because I think you'd like this, right? Recommendation engines are great, but when you find your own music on your own, listening to a record, that experience, that true integration of like actual music hearing to someone's ears and getting to see that live, you can't really replicate that. Maybe on a Zoom call, maybe on like a seminar, but no, performing changed how I see myself as a producer and hopefully establishes that you take your work seriously because anybody can make beats and throw them on a playlist or submit them, upload them, right? That's entirely independent. But when you have other people that you're accountable to that are expecting something from you or excited for you, right? That's something that puts a battery in my back and keeps me focused, keeps me engaged, and I hope that shows in my music and how I perform.
I'm curious about how you see the relationship between competition and community.
I mean, so community is just a collection of people integrated for a purpose, right? And competition, I'd like to think that we don't mean to make things dog eat dog. Maybe both in trying to take ourselves too seriously It might be at the expense of taking others less seriously or taking others too seriously and taking ourselves less seriously. And I've been there. And I think we all tend to get into that hole of like, I'm not as good as this person or I'm better than this person. And to be honest, everyone's got their own lane. There's no need to cross over on somebody's lane, nor to worry about where somebody else is in their lane. Maybe someone went to music school growing up and has music theory down pat. Maybe you don't need music theory to be as far as they are or how far as you think they are. Everything's subjective. We take a little too much agency and taking things too literally in terms of where people are, how many projects they put out, how often they perform, their social media content, right? It gets jealousy can set in real easy, competition can pop up real quick, but I think being community minded is how we protect ourselves from getting too wrapped up in things that shouldn't matter, do more undermining and diluting of good, healthy practices for ourselves and others than to just worry about other people. When you're making music, you shouldn't be too worried about other people or other people's music. Worry about what you are inspired by, worry about what you are trying to put out, worry about how you work, and make something you're proud of. If you make 2 songs a year, if you're good with those 2 songs and your audience thinks what you're doing is cool and you got some fans, you're fine. Go out and share your music. Do that. If you can only get out to a certain amount of events, that's cool too. Right. And I think there's just needs to be a bit more patience and like understanding of like not everybody can come out to every show or not everybody makes music as fast as some other people or slow as some other people or doesn't work with others the same way. I think everyone should have their own way to be empowered to work their own way without it being some sort of competitive view or anything to be compared to, right? Comparison invites competition. And that's how jealousy sets in. That's how people start to veer away from what keeps them authentic to themselves because they're too worried and they make other people the variable and other people's goals or observations things that become their goals when they don't need to be. And that's what I try to make sure I keep balanced of like, yeah, I want to grow in these ways. I'm very intentional about like what I want. It might be inspired by like somebody else's great social media content. It might be inspired by something else's thing, but be inspired by others. Don't be intimidated or too comparative to invite competition or jealousy, things like that. I think like you can win on your own terms, you can do your own thing without it being a boon to somebody else. Not at all. I don't think winning is anything that's in direct relation or competition to others, right? Like what is winning? Winning, who are the winners right now? I think people doing things for the community is a win. People getting good placements for themselves is a win. Like it doesn't always have to be something that someone else can't do anymore. There's plenty of room for everybody at whatever winner's circle. Because I don't think it's a winner's circle. I think it's just achieving your goals on your terms and maybe that relates to other people and how you contribute, right? But everyone's able to do that for themselves and for others, right? I don't think, like a beat battle is the only thing with like a true winner and someone was voted in and whatever, right? But other than that, I don't think, winning should inspire others to win, whatever that means for them. You want to throw big events too, you want to play a great set, you want to work with a brand, you should be able to do that regardless of what others are doing or not doing. And I think that's the cool thing about the music community. That's possible, and for the most part, I think that's how we're working. No one's drawing back from the space or feeling like it's too late to do something or there's no opportunities. Like there's plenty of opportunity, there's plenty of growth, there's plenty of great things happening that aren't stopping people from doing great things themselves. Plenty of people doing great things that aren't stopping others from being able to do those things as well or something different. You shouldn't have to shy away from a space or shy away from a thing because you saw somebody else do something. You should be inspired to grow. We're in a pretty supportive and healthy community. That's how you win, right? not by shying away and trying to make it to the next big thing. Like just grow, like be part of the community. That's how community members win, right? You competition doesn't breed winning. Competition just breeds contempt and dissension and animosity and beef, which I've never been a big fan of. I know that's like a hip hop culture thing, but frankly, just competition, unless it gets you to really grow, it doesn't really, there's no need or purpose for competition in an unhealthy way. Working together is how people win. Making fake enemies or setting yourselves as having to be better or faster or whatever. Being a community member is how you win with whatever goal that is, whether it's for you or for somebody else. An opportunity, you can get that from a community member. Working on a project, working on like doing anything to move yourself forward. Community is how that happens. So competition just draws you away from people in that community, setting them against you as if they are. There's no for or against at any point, right? So community members, like being with the community, integrating with them, contributing, and learning to receive as well is how you win.
Can competition and or comparison be useful and produce positive consequences?
In sensible ways, sure. Yeah, I definitely believe, like, especially because there's like experience differences, there's cadence differences, but it shouldn't be a competitively like negative competition of like trying to make better beats than some. Like, that's entirely subjective and nonsensical, right? Maybe you want to be inspired to make beats that sound more like somebody. Maybe they have a better mix down. Maybe they, have locked in on a vibe that you really like, that you kind of have tried to and maybe just struggled with. I wouldn't count it as like competition, but rather inspiration, right? Like inspiration is like a good thing of this makes me want to blah, but the blah is usually something very good. Or this makes me want to make music more thoughtfully. This makes me want to learn more about mixing, right? When I first heard all these super crazy beats at the In Plain Sight block party, I was like, damn, these beats are super loud, and they're not worried about peaking this mixer or anything. They must have real good sound. They must be making their stuff on a computer. And I had just my stuff that I sampled in from some dollar store vinyl and had some free drum kits that are probably just mostly just ripped off drums from instrumentals of tracks. But they were still good drums. They were still good stuff. But I wanted to learn how to sound better. How do I get my drums and stuff to sit nicer in a mix? That's not competition. I'm not trying to beat them at their own game. Whoever's doing it longer than you, you're probably not going to necessarily beat them at their game. We have a wonderful world of resources and stuff, but that shouldn't be your goal. Inspiration is like where it should come from rather than competition or jealousy or anything that breeds any sort of contempt between people for no reason. You might just play a beat set and all of a sudden someone's got you as an op for what? Oh, because you had harder hitting drums or you had cooler transitions or you had another piece of gear. Like that's not good competition. But to be inspired and say, "Hey, I really love that machine. How can I apply that to do what I want to do in sets?" When someone cops a chaos pad because I had one, I'm not threatened. Why should I be threatened? Right? Oh, he's biting my style. What style? Like I'm the only one who ever owned one and used one in a set. But that's how we should be mindful of people, whether we're being mindful and learning from somebody else through inspiration or inspiring somebody else, right? Not to be threatened or otherwise. So yeah, good healthy competition I think is closer to inspiration than like actually being competitive. Unless you want to have like a, all right, are you coming back to the next open aux? Sure. How many new beats you gonna have? I don't know, maybe two. Hmm. You want to secretly try to make three? Fine. Just don't turn it into a death match, right? But everybody wins if you both are proud and hopeful to come back with new stuff, right? So competition's a bit scary, but you know when everybody is starting to like pull up to beat sets with their samplers, like, all right, who's going first? And no one wants to go first. Like,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's interesting, right? I mean, competition, music is not sports. I don't know. I guess the way that I think about it maybe is everything is relative. right? And so that without other things, it's hard to, like, that's why I think when you're talking about music specifically, genre stuff is really, it really only takes you so far, and it's really, I think anybody who makes music, and even if somebody's just trying to explain some music to somebody else and they don't make it, genre stuff can get to a place where it's like, I don't really know what you mean. But when you can name other artists or other kinds of, more specific examples, I think those are often more helpful than, for me at least, in my experience, than being like, oh, it's hip hop, like you said earlier. You know what I mean? It's like, well, what does that really tell me? It's rock, it's jazz, it's hip hop. Like, everybody kind of has different reference points for like what those genres are in their own mind. And so I think like getting more specific, like having those more relative points of like, here's an artist that sounds like this is what this sounds like to me, or reminds me of this. But I think to your point, it's like it does create inspiration to be around other people that make you, well, you're not necessarily trying to beat them, but it makes you want to be better in some way, or make something, or challenge yourself in a way that you didn't before, because you now have this example outside of yourself that, oh, like it could be like this.
And I didn't have that. I had, the channels I was watching, they were just performing there on video. But at the same time, like, not everyone performs the same. How do I perform? I don't know. I'm nervous. I look straight down at my sampler, and for the most part, I still do today. But some people will dance along to their stuff. Some people will rock out real heavy. Some people are more execution based. Some people really have their own nuances and styles, and you can be inspired. And that's why I try to, like, not see it as competition, because no one performs better than other people. There's ground rules, but I think that's more of just learning and growing and being inspired, rather than like having to get better to beat somebody else, or being better than somebody else for your own validation, right? Yeah, if you're struggling to set up your equipment and you barely know how to use it, there's plenty to learn and grow in terms of performing, right? Don't bring something that will trip you over your own shoelaces on stage. But and I learned, I was like, okay, when I first started bringing out the Chaos Pad, I got to get my setup halfway set up. I can't take 10 minutes to set up. It eats into my set time. But we learn and we grow. And some people came out with SPs who just like didn't really know how to use it, or an MPC that they didn't know how to use. And but you can contribute, like, hey, just switch over this like this, or maybe set up your set list in advance. The MPC has that functionality or whatever. Just being able to not be competitive or condescending in any way, but give where you can and help where you can and grow where you can, both personally and to help others grow. Through inspiration, through accountability, you should want to be better if you're around people who look better, rather than trying to be jealous or overly competitive, right? Healthy competition is good, whether you're getting everybody to a good, healthy standard of like, hey, everyone's prepared for shows. Hey, everyone's got good sounding stuff and decent mixing, and we don't have to worry about changing levels all the time, right? That's growth, right? And that healthy competition can get us there, as long as it's not super, this person performed 4 more times in a month. They must think I'm better. I need to step it up. Or they're whack. I should be getting more set placements, right? Like, things can get there, and that's definitely what we don't. Being mindful of how you see others and what you can see in others that you can use for your own benefit is like almost an art form in and of itself.
How do you maintain your attention on those things and not get distracted by some of those other things that you mentioned?
That's fair. I just try to take it all in patience. I take music seriously, but I don't take music too seriously, if that makes sense. I don't take performing too seriously, because if it gets to that sort of like dark zone of getting frustrated or angry or jealous, those are things I don't want in my life in general. I don't want music to be a source of that. You shouldn't want to be angry or resentful or jealous, right? They're not great things to feel. Don't make me feel good. What am I doing out here getting like jealous of someone who performs often? I don't. I'm taking a personal nice little break. After this, I'm supposed to go to like a venue and perform with like 2 days notice. I don't know. I had like an all day gig yesterday. I'm not pressed to perform. Some people are. Some people want to play more shows. Some people want to get booked without asking. It's easy to get frustrated if you want more than what you have in like an unhealthy way. If I don't get booked, that's fine. I make sure to be patient about that. I expect that I will keep posting, I will keep being part of the community, and someone will hit me up at some point. If I'm frustrated with beat making, all right, let me just take a little break, be inspired, wait till it comes back to me, give it a little try in a couple days, listen to some different stuff, listen to my friends' stuff, be in the space, right? Community is how I protect myself from getting too jealous, too frustrated. You can't be so wrapped up in this thing where it starts being a source of pain. All right. And if it is, then you're not in it for the right reasons.
What are things that challenge you in terms of patience and frustration?
Wanting to be better for myself. Like I made this thing earlier in the year after coming back from NAM. Shout out to QSTV. Shout out to all that they do and for getting us out to NAM. And I wanted to have this opportunity for like the 404 community in New York to have like a real proper event. So I wanted to talk to Roland, and they were like a little weird about it, but we made some connections and I got some things going. And I wasn't able to really lock in on like getting a 404 day event officially like from Roland. And I was frustrated. I was like, dang, like people see me as like this huge community icon, and I wasn't able to make things happen the way they wanted. Last year, I tried to get some people together for the sampler. The sampler changed ownership. They kind of like screwed me over. They kind of like strung me along, and then like the week before 404 day, they kind of like canceled my opportunity. And I had all these people lined up, and I had a flyer ready for people who were able to. I was doing my own first real event management, which is not easy, and I was frustrated. But I was like, sometimes it just doesn't happen the way it happens. It will happen. New York has a huge 404 community, and I think we're growing. I think it's being noticed. Different cities are getting their events, and it's just a matter of patience, right? Like, you can only grow your patience through testing it. If you don't have to wait, your patience doesn't have to grow. You just gotta wait. If you don't get it when you want, you can either wait or you can be miserable and give up, and then your patience doesn't grow anyway. Patience shortens if you give up and get pissed off. You have a short temper, it's like you choose to get pissed off rather than extend out your patience to realize there's no need to get mad yet. But patience is just choosing not to get mad or be discouraged yet.
Yeah, that's interesting. Where do you see the line between what you can and can't control?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. What I can do is what I can make any sort of active changes to. If I want to really manage my time down to the minutes and seconds, I can make more beats in a month. I can make more social media posts. But I choose what's comfortable for me and what works best for me. And I have to then be okay with the output, the frequency, the quality, and all that stuff. Right. And so you can't just want something, not work towards it, and then be mad. Right. Like you have to have the time and the cadence to go after what you want, be mindful of what you want, and work from there. So I start with always kind of like, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to make beats this weekend? Do I want to organize my studio this weekend? Do I want to, like, what time am I dedicating to this first? And sometimes it'll be nothing. Sometimes I'll be like, I just want to vibe out, play some video games, I'm going to work out consistently this week, maybe make some beats on the weekend, or I'm just going to go to some events. I know this Saturday I'm booked out. Next Sunday, oh no, maybe I'll sit down and make some beats. Just being mindful of what I can actually do is what I can control. If I can't control or do anything about or to influence something, what's the use in trying? If I already know from here I cannot do anything to influence or affect that thing, why waste my time and effort and resources to try? If I can have a conversation, then that's something I can control. That's like the boundary of it. Like where's my influence? Where's my willingness to influence and my ability to influence?
Hmm.
Beneath that is entirely within my hands. Past that, if I choose to stay up all night and make some beats, fine. I'll stay up all night and make some beats. If I get less sleep in the morning and wake up right before my stand up, that's on me. But right now, it tends to just be what can I manage and what am I willing to do with what I have now? How much am I willing to change that wiggle? How much, like today, if I really don't feel like it, I might not show up. I might just message the guy and be like, you know what? Not really feeling it today. Apologies. Wish I had more notice on the event. 2 days notice is a rough time to give somebody a 3 to 8 block, right? So, but that's nothing that I can control aside from choosing to go or not. If that's a good example, right? And then with that choice comes communication and stuff like that. But that's kind of just how I see it. I live day by day, and what I can do, I can do. What I'm willing to do, I'm going to try. And what I can't do, or what I shouldn't bother to try because I really don't have that much or any influence over it, it is what it is.
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this episode, take a second and hit that subscribe button. Remember, Producer Head grows thanks to listeners and supporters like you. So if something here resonates, take a second to let us know by following, liking, subscribing. Your support means everything. By subscribing and sharing, you help us grow the Producer Head community, which allows us to continue bringing you incredible conversations just like this one, and opens the door to even more exciting guests in the future. Let's keep building this together. All right, back to the episode. Right, and like I like, you mentioned sort of this relationship, input output, right? In terms of like if I spend time making beats, I get beats on the other side of that, right?
Right.
And so what I'm curious about is how predictable do you feel like your output is? Is it 1 hour brings me this many beats on a consistent basis? Is it I can work for a whole day and get nothing? And how that feels over time, those different kinds of experiences, or is it pretty consistent for you?
Oh, it's not consistent. I feel like it shouldn't be. Once it's robotic, I feel like you're losing the artistic, and like it should fluctuate as a sign of it being healthy and authentic, right? It's like being in season. Like, yeah, there's a cadence to it, there's a rhythm, but some days you're not feeling it, and some days, oh, I heard something and I can make something right now, but I'm on the train. Right? I don't have koala. Some people could pull that off, right? But I'm inspired when I sit down and I choose that I want to. I'm like, all right, I'm going to make beats today. I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm going to hit the studio. I'm going to throw on some vinyl. And I'll usually find something. I start with just getting samples, hearing something. And if I know I like something already, I can make something within, like, if I really chop something up and put something together, usually like 2 hours and change, start to finish. Or if it's just a loop, yeah, I can get that done. Tune it up a little bit, EQ it. Remixes real quick, like an hour. But just time stretching and lining things up. But some days I make a bunch of stuff. Some days I make stuff that I think I'm super proud of and super amazing. Some days I'm like, all right, this is good stuff. I like it. I dig it. I'm gonna put it in the next set. And some stuff I'm just like, some samples I get in, I just like leave alone and I move on to the next thing. I'm like, all right, I feel like there's potential here, but I'm not really juicing it. Like I'm squeezing the orange, and I don't know, this might just not, maybe today's not the day. And I'll leave it there and I'll move on to something different. I'll listen to something else. I'll listen to some other beats that I have lying around on there, and I'm like, all right, let's get back to it. Plenty of stuff I've just chopped up and everything, and I just like deleted the bank. But it's definitely not consistent. Definitely some days I'll have hours, some days I'll have like 2 hours, some days I just collect samples and fall asleep, and then I'll just go back to it another time that I have time because I just want to be in that creative energy and use it while I have it, which sometimes is like 12, 1 a.m., but I know I'm not staying up to make real stuff at that point. And now lately it's been like less frequent, which is really cool. But the times that I do make beats, I make stuff that I really like. I'm sitting with my vinyl, and I'm like, this is great. And I'm not just making stuff for shows because I don't have shows. And I'm not making stuff for open auxes because I'm not bothering to do that. Yeah, it fluctuates for sure. But part of it's intentional and part of it's natural. But it's all definitely super authentic. I like the fact that I don't have a true cadence or super like reliable output on how many beats I can get out per, I don't know, hour or a week or whatever, right? Because one week might have 3 hours, one week might have 17, right? 1 month might have 8 days, and 1 month might have like 2.5 weeks of like beat making time, right? So
yeah, so I'm curious, when do you wait for inspiration before you enter the studio, or do you enter the studio on some kind of like more predictable basis regardless and try to find the inspiration once you're in there?
I do both because I like having the inspiration, and then sometimes I just want to do it to do it. Like I want it to be in the mind of doing it without the inspiration is still something you can practice and get better at. because you might just hear it in the song. You might just hear it in the moment because you don't have that predetermined notion of what it should sound like or what you're looking for, right? I mean, that beat making and its process is a whole other science and art in and of itself, right? Some days I already just hear the beat once I like hear the sample. That's how it used to be when I first started making beats, and now I like want to be inspired by other stuff. I want to listen to other stuff. I want to make beats in different ways. I want different kinds of vibes. So it's not always like I hear a Twami style beat or a 1-2 style beat. But like I was listening to a lot of Cooking Soul when I first started, and I'm like, oh, this is like a quick, easy sample chop, And I could pull that off. I'll take an hour. And that was on my SX when you actually had to copy and paste and mark all your samples. Now on the on the Mark II, even faster. But like I like just having ideas. I like having good music without ideas in advance. Because that sometimes like yeah, it's a gamble still. Definitely leaves more potential to things that amaze even you. Like even like yourself.
What do you mean by that? Good ideas in advance without good music.
Good ideas in advance that you can just apply to a song, like a template of a beat, I feel like is different from like just not having a template and just starting with hearing a track. Right. Like I'm always sample based. I'm not just opening up a DAW and like bringing up drum kits, right? I'm literally just going in, listening to something, and sometimes I have no clue what it is. Like I'm listening to vinyl that I bought a year and a half ago. I'm like, what's on here? 1976. Oh, David Sanborn. I mean, David Sanborn's not like a session musician, but you know what I mean. It's like, all right, cool. What can I expect? I don't know what to expect, and I have nothing in mind. I'm just gonna listen to some music and see if I want to make stuff. And sometimes I'm like, that's a sick guitar riff. You can loop that, but let's see what else we have. Okay, we got some good drums over here, or I like this part here. Right? When I first started making beats, I had like started collecting records and I just started like marking the tracks that I liked. And I wanted to make a track from everything that I liked. I was like, that's going to be my art form. I'm going to get a track I like. And if it's heat, it means I can make a heat beat. And like that would be what I would try to do. Some things were loops, some things were chops, some things were whatever. But like, that's what I mean by like not having a good idea, but like having a good song in mind and trying to make something from that with like a music production understanding rather than being like, all right, I heard this track, I already have this like chop in mind. I just heard a track that I pretty much want to replicate with this other track. Going in empty-headed is really fun.
Very
Tends to
cool,
leave
man.
more room for exploration, for creativity.
Yeah, I'm curious about too, like how often are you working completely on the SP? Are you integrating with the DAW?
Completely on the SP.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm curious, like how much do you have sessions that are kind of like when you go in that are dedicated? Like today I'm going to make beats, or today I'm going to organize samples, or today I'm going to like organize, like something that's like almost administrative in a way in a producer
Admin work,
life.
yes, I used to do admin work, but not anymore because I guess I did enough of it, and I'm also not doing too much more because I never choose to. So I have two banks of just straight drum loops. Like one bank is all drum loops and one bank is all drum shots, one shots. And so when I load up samples, I don't really organize them. I'll have a sample bank for just sample material, and then I have a bunch of empty banks. And so all my sample chops will go into an empty bank. I leave like a bank and a half, or like a half a bank for like finished beats. So when I'm done, when I mix, when I resample, when I whatever, it just goes into another bank of like things I made. That's starting to get filled up too. I need to clear that out. I need to do admin work in general, is what I'm saying. But in terms of before I make beats, no.
Yeah, because I was wondering, like, if sometimes if you pull up and you're like, I thought I was going to make beats today, but what I'm actually going to do is admin stuff, or vice versa.
Never had a thing where I'm like, nah, never mind. I'm always just going straight for beats.
Let's talk more about those drums for a second, because that's interesting in that you kind of have your one shots, your go-to one shots, and kind of go-to breaks that you like. I don't know. I feel like, I know for myself, I guess I won't speak for anybody else, but this sense of like you always have to be working with new sounds or new drums, and how having your go-to stuff can really streamline things for you and create a sound. I mean, you've mentioned Ninth Wonder a few times. I mean, I think that's a great example, of somebody who's recognizable for certain sounds. And I would say that's true of a lot of the producers that we've kind of mentioned, even in passing, like The Alchemist and so on. So I'm curious about like, because as you know too, there's just so many, we're bombarded with like drum kit advertisements and a lot of people making all kinds of really cool drum sounds. And so this kind of what you can do to kind of and also like there's the sense of because it's all digital, right? Like if these were all physical products, right? Like you just wouldn't buy it. You don't have any space. You can't stack all these drum sounds up in a room. Like nobody has enough space for that. You know what I mean? So the sense of like kind of continuously looking and acquiring new sounds versus, like how you feel about that versus like kind of committing like, hey, I have 5 snares, 5 kicks, and this is what I use.
Yeah, I haven't looked for new drums in probably like a year and change. And I haven't used anything outside of that.
And it sounds like that's a pretty conscious decision.
Oh, of course. It was part of like me getting better at making beats that sounded more clean, more mixed, more controlled. And it's like when you've locked in on a good sound and you've learned how to just design around it and like make that drum kit or make that drum one shot really work and shine and get that side chain, get that bump, and like I was like, these work. I love these. I love how they sound, and I will use them on everything. Sure, maybe I'll just as a courtesy buy some drums from the homies or something like that, make them work on some tracks because that's also kind of fun. I used to use just getting resources to be ready to make beats. They had like the Fugazi drum kits on like blogspot.com that were practically, back when they had all the named drum kits, like the Ninth Wonder drum kit, and then like the Just Blaze drum kit and the Arab music drum kit. It's like all just one shots from like the instrumental parts of their tracks that just like ripped out in Audacity. Still valid, right? Which is like a cool challenge for like sound design and mixing. Like, all right, can you take these Fugazi drums and make like a solid like Adult Swim bump out of it? Can you apply it to a sample? Can you apply it to some synths, some pads, right? And that's how I was making all of my beats, just like straight up chopping up breaks, chopping up one shots over my samples on the SP. And once they sounded good, I was like, why work longer to get new drums to have to then treat them and process them differently and struggle? Because again, I still did everything on the SP. I wasn't throwing Fab Filter on anything. I wasn't throwing anything through a transient shaper. I wasn't throwing anything to any, I had my isolator, I had my EQ, I had my compressor. That was it. Like the SpongeBob meme where he puts out the three friends and it's just the three fingers. That was like that's what I really wanted to stick to. It's easy enough to be like, I give up these drum kits. I need better drum kits. I need, I gotta just start using a DAW and really treating this stuff to make it work. Sounds too messy. But I really just like found the sounds that did work and playing them outside because I didn't have still don't have monitor speakers set up. I make all my stuff in my V-Moda headphones. But that's why I took it so seriously of like, it sounds good here. I have to play it out. Next chance I get, I shove all my tracks in there. All right, which ones really worked? Which ones really sounded good? Which ones do I need to bring the mids out in more? Which ones do I need to, you know what I mean? And the Mark II has definitely made that process a lot easier because they have the bus system on the effects, so I can like EQ something one way, which is even stronger. All the effects are way stronger and way more powerful. So way more shaping ability and cleaning ability on the Mark II, which makes using those same great drums even easier. Because even if I have to do some tweaking to a sample or something like that, the Mark II can handle it for the most part.
Tell me about the decision to not try to work with a DAW also and to just stick with the Mark II.
So when I first got into beat making, like just seeing all the videos and like the rhythm roulettes and seeing like gear, like I love gear. I'm an engineer. I love technology. I just love the tactile feel of like gear. And as a gamer, like a arcade controller is just like still really cool. Do I know how to use it well? No, I stick with controller, like a pad. But having to like drum out your actual drum rhythms and like fire off your samples with buttons is way cooler than like sequencing a bunch of different chops in like a DAW for me. And I just found that like a really fun and engaging and enriching way to make music that made you like A, have to be skillful, have to be locked in, B, learn how to use equipment, and C, I look at a computer all day because I'm a software developer. And when I first wanted to like make beats, I found my FL Studio that fell off the back of the truck. I got a MIDI controller, the Akai one that everybody gets with the 8 buttons and the keys and the whatever.
The little MPK.
Yeah, the MPK Mini Mark II. And I was like, this is cool. I made my first beat. I was just like, and then I did it again. And then I did it again. And I just like, after a while, I was like, I really want, and maybe it's the gear acquisition syndrome. I was still watching YouTube. I was still watching tutorials, Little Bad Snacks, Stolen Drums, Jade Wee, Sour the Instrumentalist. Like, the 404 was just looking too good, and Rhythm Roulette really is what sold me. I was like, I want a turntable. I want to chop stuff up on a turntable just like they did back in the old days, like classics, like turntable, sampler, RCA cables. That's how I want to make my beats. I want to learn how to do it. I want to get good at it. I want to use just that to make that extra gritty, wholesome sounding like hip hop. I want some kicks and some snares, maybe a hi hat in there, maybe a shaker, chop some stuff up the old way. Like I just found that fun and engaging. Like I found like that was like the hobbyist part, and I stuck with it. I love it. I love the practice of it. I love sitting down to have to really sit with it. I don't want to be bringing my computer anywhere or worrying about updates or running out of space. I loved it. I just go into Micro Center, buying all these cards. I put stickers on all my cards with like Marvel characters. Like, all right, this one has all drums. I like had a little spreadsheet. I'm like, this one has like my friend's sample pack on there. This one has all my jazz samples. And then I'm digging for records. I got my sampler. I love this new gear. It's sick. You got this thing with buttons. They'll light up and stuff like that. And yeah, I've been locked in ever since. I got my 555. I wanted a louder. Making stuff directly on the 404. The one challenge that did worry me was that it was so quiet. I had to bump my volume on my not so great mixed music at the time. And so I was doing all this research, and I see people with the 555. Shout out to friend Carrick. Shout out to Nothing New, people who first brought that thing outside, and I was like, 16 pads, and people don't have this thing. And I mean, it's a crazy machine for what it's for its time frame. I'm surprised more people don't have it. And yeah, I just loved having that limitation. Makes you more creative, makes you more inspired and intentional, and more physical with what you're making. Right, like I'm chopping things by hand. I'm playing in my own drums. I don't really use a sequencer on there. And I was like, yeah, a sequencer doesn't really fit my vibe. I'm just going to play everything in.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it does sound like, I mean, yeah, like the timing and your stuff, it does have a very like human and like that swing kind of feel in the digital vibe. And so I get that. And it sounds like you've really found something that just works for your personality. I mean, I do think that these digital things like the 404 and these kinds of controllers and samplers are just like different kinds of instruments. And in the same way that certain people like certain types of keyboards or pianos or basses, guitars, etc., there are certain controllers that just vibe with people. And it is like, I do think, I don't know. So I just say that to encourage people. It's like if you're struggling with that or you really feel like some of this stuff isn't working, you know, if you can try to find a way to try other stuff, especially before you commit to buying stuff, because none of this stuff is, you know, super cheap. And so to the extent you can experiment with that stuff, because it's weird for some, you know, like everybody's brain works in a certain way. And when you can find those little kind of ways that just line up, it's like it clicks for you. And that's a really nice feeling when you find those things.
For sure. Yeah, I just loved seeing like the workflow. Like, hey, you got to make this beat by hand pretty much, which is pretty cool. Like, all right, you choose your sample, you record in, you stop it. It wasn't super automatic now. I mean, they got like like auto trigger and things like that. Like just stopping it. I had my turntable, my little Newmark, and I could like pitch it down a little bit. And I already, whenever you like hear a cool record and you like pitch it down, it sounds a little different. You're like, ah, yeah, this is it. Chopping that up, learning how to chop, learning how to just string stuff together, making a beat. I was just so proud of what I made as a result. Like I was like, yeah, I put in like an hour's worth of work and like got this really cool loop together. Got some real basic, simple hip hop. But that's what I love. And I think just making it on those terms is what really inspired me. Like I love that like underdogish sort of like, can you get some really good sounding stuff out of just an SP and some $5 records? I think so. It's worth a try. It's what keeps me going. Right. So
I get it. I mean, that's impressive just because I know for me, I mean, I have a Mark II and I've almost exclusively just used it for for effects and for like kind of playing things like we've been talking about, but I've never really tried to make anything inside of it. You know what I mean? I'm just so yeah, I'm like so much into like Ableton and using different kinds of instruments and stuff and making sounds that way. It's like I got a lot of talk about. I mean, because I think to your point earlier about patience, man. Like I think the patience and like the because you can't. It's just I feel like you do have to store a lot in your head because you can't see stuff. I mean, with the Mark II now, you can see waveforms and stuff a lot more. Doing that on the SX and stuff, and I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah, people didn't believe me. They're like, "No way," and I was like, "No, just a record going in there and like learning how to do what you need to do." And I feel like that's like because I keep it simple. I think keeping it simple is what has protected me from losing my sanity and giving up and getting frustrated. That doesn't work for everybody. What you want to make is what you want to make, and if it doesn't serve your purposes, yeah, don't get an SX. Don't get a Mark II. Um, Plenty of people have dissuaded away from my Mark II because you have to know what it's for. And for what I make and how I like to make stuff, which is literally just a sample chop with some drums on top, it works and I love it. And I feel like it's way more fun to do it this way than it is to make it on a laptop and have a bunch of plugins. And I had my phase where I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get a Kaiser and a whole bunch of other stuff. I think I own RX 950 or RC20, the non-famous one, the other, yeah. But like, I was like, this stuff just, I don't know. It ends up becoming overwhelming, ironically. If I have like 5 different plugins and a template open with like 3 different tracks, I'm like, all right, where do I start? Samples, drums, I can play whatever I want. Uh, but like on the SX, it's like, all right, you got a number, get an empty pad, get your sound cables connected. But that's every time I sit down to make beats, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I think you. I mean, I don't know. I think that this speaks to something really interesting, which is because of the ability to acquire and have so much digital stuff that's like kind of just in the air. It really requires like a super conscious and intentional decision to be like, okay, I'm going to focus on getting to know these tools, and I'm going to use them over and over again. Whereas when you have a physical thing, you know, and it's limited in its storage, and it is also just a physical thing, you're like, I'm gonna use this thing. You know what I mean? And it kind of creates, to your point, like some set of limitations for you, and you're gonna get a little bit more intimate with that piece of gear.
For sure, yeah. For me, the limitations are what make it so inspiring and so like fully based on what you do. Because like I feel so much can be like facilitated in terms of like DAW creation. Like a lot of stuff can be set up for you right away. You can start where you want. You can go where you want. You can do anything you want. But you're so limited on the SX that you have to have your own way kind of planned out or your workflow. Like it's so defining of your workflow because there's so little you can do with it. Like you can't just go crazy or decide, all right, I'm gonna lay down a synth track and maybe do some side chaining and turn this thing on and off. And the DAW workflow doesn't translate well to like an SX work. And that's for me, I love the limitation side of it because I was literally overwhelmed with like I wouldn't even be not that I wouldn't be inspired, but I wouldn't know where to go with the inspiration because I can go anywhere. And like that open space like freaked me out.
Did you have that from the start? I guess because I mean, it really just sounds like you're like, I know what I want to do in music.
Yeah, no, literally, I knew from the jump the kind of stuff I wanted to make, the kind of stuff I was inspired by, and I wanted to get good at it, and I wanted to do it the old school way. So those are like my real main like criteria. I was like, I want that gear. I love that old vintage gear. It's not going to cost me this new MPC that's like 800 or whatever, right? The one hadn't come out yet. So I was like, I'm not getting some new MPC that's like hundreds of bucks. I can get this for like 2 or 300. I think my SX was still new on Amazon for like 350, which is not terrible at the time. Yeah, from there, and I got my little $100 turntable. I love that it was like cheaper, but still had plenty of utility. I could pitch up and down. I was like, this is it. This is all I need. I was very mindful of what I needed for what I wanted to do. I didn't just get an MPC because I wanted to make beats. I was like, I know I want to just chop up some samples and throw some drums on it, make them sound classic and old without having to throw RC20 on it and isotope vinyl. Just I want that vinyl from the vinyl, or I want it from like my computer, whatever. Yeah, no, I was pretty locked in on the sound I wanted in my workflow once I learned how to use the SX. I was like, okay, there's the SX and there's like the Novation whatever circuit. I was like, that had no screen too, but that just was like straight knobs and buttons. I was like, that I don't feel like having to remember how to use. But at least this thing's got words on it. This thing, I don't have to worry about tracks. I don't have to worry about trying to replicate a DAW workflow. I can really just chop up a sample literally and just throw drums on top. And that was it. And to this day, that's pretty much what I do. Now I can line up loops a little bit better and make remixes faster, but Anita Villain was made entirely on the 555, just loading in all the acapellas and chopping up the acapellas to like time them better because my loops aren't perfect, especially not on those machines. But yeah, I just love that limitation. I love that like, oh, making a remix is a challenge now, but I'm down. I got time.
Yeah, I mean, for the people like, I mean, I think there are a lot of people listening who do understand, but for those who maybe don't know what some of these machines are, look them up and understand like what it would be to just make an entire song on something like the SX or the 555 without the visual feedback that you get in a lot of the more kind of, I guess, like recent versions and like the stuff that's kind of continuing to evolve. It's really cool. But I think something that really, because of the kind of fixed way that you have your process set up and the equipment that you have, you're somebody who's like really attuned and has to be really good at picking up the inspiration piece, right? You have to be good at hearing things, finding records, finding sources of sounds that are gonna work well as they are. And so I'm wondering like what you can speak to, about what you've learned about kind of cultivating inspiration in maybe expected and maybe unexpected places.
Great question. Inspiration, I think, doesn't have to be directly musical. Like your vibes, your attitude, your mindset are all things that can lend to the creative process. And cultivating that is literally just not just a lifestyle, it's like the lifestyle. It's the life you're living. Whether you're making time to listen to music, making time to set apart for admin work on music, you're being mindful of the music that you intend to make, even though you're not making it. For me, curating openness to music, to making music, is just listening to music and keeping myself in a good, healthy mind state. Whether it's making sure I'm working out consistently or getting decent sleep or staying hydrated, but just always having music. I just got a turntable from a friend, so now I have a turntable in my living room. Download. When I buy vinyl, I'm not just trapping it in my studio to then make time in the studio to listen to my vinyl on turntables. Now I can kind of just throw them in my living room. Whether I'm playing video games, like a single player game, I'll throw on a record I just bought, or I just listen to stuff and think like, oh, that's really cool. Well, I'll have to keep that in mind, and then that goes off to the side. And then I'll be even more inspired the next day or so to go up to the studio and be like, where's that track I heard yesterday? Now there's like a process. Now there's a flow, right? I don't have to be constantly just hunting down stuff on YouTube. Sometimes playing video games is how I just like mentally relax and get ready to be creative. But yeah, I think just keeping yourself healthy in all the other ways, including in like a creative way, keeps you prepared for that creative juice. Like how I just will literally just be like, all right, I'm just gonna go into the studio, pull some vinyl, listen to some stuff, and make some stuff happen. I have nothing in mind aside from I intend to make tracks.
How do you Yeah, so how do you keep that balance in mind for yourself? Because it's interesting, like kind of talking about the various kind of how well rested you are, how much music you're listening to, playing video games, socializing, being at events, etc. Like, how do you notice when that's out of balance, or how do you notice when it's in balance?
Great question. I don't. To the end of the day, usually I know when it's out of balance when like it starts to literally physically affect me and I'm too tired in the morning after actually getting decent sleep. Like, oh, I've just been out too much. I need to dial it back. Or I had too much fun. I went to all these events. I probably didn't need to go to every single one. Was I enriched? Did I really network? Did I really see anybody? Did I meet anybody new? Not always. I'm not a club person. I'll tell anybody can tell. Aside from like when whether it's Bossa Nova Civic Club or Mood Ring, shout out to Heartbeats, shout out to the collectives that perform there, Dugout Radio. I really go where I'm received and like well comfortable. And sometimes if I like go out and it's like, oh, I'm just going out on my own to support this person's event, but they're in the booth. I'm not gonna like run up there just because I'm a friend and give them a high five. Like they're working, and not everybody is like I go hang out in the booth. I don't really do guest list. I support venues and buy tickets, and I'll just be in a space with like no one that I know. And sometimes that's happened like a couple times in the past 2 months. And I'm like, this is one of those times I feel like I didn't need to be there. And I'll be tired. That social battery just like drains faster. And I think that's what keeps me balanced. Like, okay, if I'm out, it has to be intentional. It's always intentional. I'm always supporting somebody I know. I don't really just go to Deluxe Flux on my own volition for no reason. Right. I just wouldn't. If my friend's DJing, okay. Same with, a couple of other different venues. Elsewhere, for example, that's a big like we're gonna go out and go to elsewhere. Me? No. I go there when my friends are there. Right. But being intentional, like being outside, on the other hand, could also be the battery in my back. That can be my inspiring moment, my community time. Like that's important to me. Like being in those spaces with those people is important to me and helps when it's in balance, right? Sometimes I'm out too much, sometimes I'm out too late, sometimes I gotta hit the exfil and pay for the Uber instead of feeling like having to take that ferry back. Yeah, I usually feel when it's out of balance because I love to still be out there. Like before I get out there, it doesn't feel terrible. Once I'm there and I'm like, it's one and I gotta take the long way home. Then that's when I'm like, all right, maybe I need to stay in for a few days, just work out, get some more sleep, catch up on that, so I can like still be my best at work, still be my best when I sit down to make beats and not just like be drained. Like got some good samples. All right, gonna go get some sleep. You know what I mean? But yeah, when it's out of whack, I can tell it. Usually, I can feel it, and then I get it back in whack. But that's what keeps me motivated to like go back to that line of all right, we got Isola Thursday. Who's DJing Friday? Oh, Vinyl Laura's at Beer Wax. I'm gonna stop by for a little bit. Won't be there forever. I'll probably go home and maybe listen to some vinyl, right? And then Saturdays, I had an all day gig yesterday, and then I found out before yesterday that I have a gig at some point or not. I don't know. We'll see. Like that's like I just take inventory of the things that I want to do and where I want to be, and I make sure to try to facilitate that the best that I can. But yeah, sometimes I'm out too much, sometimes I'm out too late. Thankfully never to the point of ruin where I'm just like out in the gulag at 3 a.m. and it's Tuesday and my stand-ups in 5 hours and yeah. But I keep myself in check. But yeah, sometimes going out too much is too much. But usually I really try to keep myself prepared to go out, keep myself prepared, inspiration wise, sleep wise, water wise, all that fun stuff. That's very important to me because I want to be my best for not just my beats and whatever, but like for the community.
So we have mentioned a lot, man. I mean, going out to events and stuff. And so I think it's a form of support and community. I'm curious about how you feel about, generosity and what that looks like for producers as members of, the community in whatever city you happen to be in.
How can a producer be generous? I mean, there's so many things you can do. Supporting, whether it's at an event, whether it's at hitting up the link in their bio rather than people just throwing it at the bottom of a post and then people just like the post and move on. Visit their bio, see what they got going on, see if they got any shows coming up. That's usually my go-to. I see a fellow producer, I'm like, hey, how are you? Need a drink? Do you have any shows coming up? Right? Like, show that you're invested in what they're doing. I'm an introvert. If I didn't say that, I wouldn't go up to people. I wouldn't have anything to say. I would have to wait for people to come and talk to me because I wouldn't know what to say. But it's like, how can you be engaged with somebody? Ask if they have any projects coming out. Ask if they have any shows coming up. Ask how the beat making's been going. Oh, it's been a little quiet. That's cool. Be supportive. Nothing? You're not coming out anywhere? Why would you say that to somebody, right? Maybe somebody's in beat block, but they're outside. Maybe someone's in beat block and they're not outside. I need to probably do better in like checking in on the homies who aren't outside as much. I mean, I'm in a lot of group chats and people will engage on comments and be like, yeah, but like just be engaged in what they're trying to do. And if you can contribute in a way that works for you, help. I buy people's beat tapes, buy their beat tapes, buy their merch. Everyone says, oh, get merch, get merch. There's no point in having merch if people don't buy your merch. Support your fellow producers. Buy the merch, right? Buy the beat tape. Wear the t-shirt. Wear it to your events. When I go out, I wear my friend's merch. So there's so many ways to be generous promoting their events. I tried to be less of a promoter this year, but I was like, you know what? I have an audience and I have my own desires of what I want to share and what matters to me. So every once in a while, I'll just like try to support the homies. Like this weekend was like Puerto Rican weekend, and my friends were DJing, and they were super passionate about where they were showing, where they were DJing, where they were performing, and where they wanted to go because they also wanted to celebrate that instead of having to be behind the decks the whole time. So I promoted those events on Friday. Saturday I was out all day. I didn't have any capacity to like. But in general, like if things are popping off, I say, hey, here's an event. And then I became this person who's like, oh, he knows the places to go. That's good. I would love to be the person to come to be like, hey, where's the beach shows? Ironically, 90% of the time when people literally do ask me where are the beach shows, either there's none coming up or they've just missed one, or I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm sure somebody is going to be doing something soon. But stay tuned to these people, stay tuned to these collectives, stay tuned to these venues, right? Awareness is first, and then you can act, right?
Yeah, what I love about that is just like it doesn't have to be some crazy grand gesture, right? It's just like it's the taking an interest in other people and trying to share what's happening with other people. And it speaks to that, yeah, it's like less competition and more opening up and taking interest in others and what's going on with them. Remembering that there's people behind these posts and this music.
Exactly, and it's like those people that you really want to be connected to. You love the beats, great, like, but you're really just maintaining that connection with that producer, with that person, right? Like send a check in, like, oh hey, haven't seen you at exchange rate in a while. Everything good? Are you coming back out? You're doing the open aux. And I mean like opportunities, right? People are looking for open auxes. We're getting open aux opportunities again, which is great. We didn't have them for like a year and a half, 2 years, but now the community is starting to open up again to like open aux is important to be able to welcome new people into the community because you're not just booking strangers, right? You book people you know, you book people you hear from, you book people you're confident can perform, etc. But people have to get to that stage first. And so open auxes are really essential, and I try to, support where I can and hold space for that where I can, and just hold space for producers to grow, to join, and to be their best for themselves and others. And that's yeah.
Right on, man. I got these kind of shorter form questions I want to ask you. Before we get into that, I do want to ask if there's any upcoming stuff or any past stuff that you want to kind of highlight for people that are listening and maybe are unfamiliar with your music, the stuff that you think they need to hear so they can understand Designer Dreams.
Oh man, my own roadmap to getting the vibes down. Honestly, go to my Instagram, but just go back past all the collab posts, back to like early 2024, mid 2024, and before then, you'll see a lot of my original, just like when I was really consistently making posts for my music. Great times. I need to get back to that, but we'll get to that in a second. Um, projects, really cool projects that I have out are my themed projects, whether they're themed remixes or themed over an artist, or themed over just like an actual like overarching theme. Beloved is one of my favorites. I did a No Worries tape last year called Hakuna Matata, and I did, I have a Biggie one, I have a bunch of Doom ones, and Long Live Dilla actually is one of my favorites that I put out last year that people were really, really enamored and inspired by. I was inspired by Dilla. I actually didn't like almost every other producer out here. I wasn't super well versed on Dilla, and therefore I wasn't super well like aware of or enamored by his music. I learned about Dilla through joining the producer community. Like I had heard his music, I had heard his name, but like that just connection didn't really form like it did for like Doom and Premiere and Pete Rock and things like that. Right. So last year I really did like a deep dive for the month of February into like Dilla sound, Dilla influence, Dilla involvement, Dilla culture, his like own tenets for like studio and beat making, and of course the people around him that he's transformed the lives of and how it's influenced their beat making. Like I kind of had this whole deep dive, and then Long Live Dilla was a project that stemmed from, and so people always doing Dilla tributes and beat tapes, performances, and I got to perform thanks to Building Beats. Shout out to Building Beats and the team there that they hold a Dilla tribute yearly called Donuts Are Forever, and I was honored alongside Brown Jewel to do a beat set for Donuts Are Forever, and it was like the release night slash listening party to this entire project that released that night. So if there's any like crowning major latest project, it's probably Long Live Dilla. But anything on my Bandcamp is something that I really take seriously and put a lot of agency into. So just look through my Instagram deep and go to my Bandcamp.
Yeah, what's the Instagram and what's the Bandcamp for everybody listening?
Instagram.com/designer.dreams, and the first E in both designer and dreams is a 3. And same thing for Bandcamp, I think, for the most part. Bandcamp.com, designer dreams. Yeah, designer with a E, with a 3 is the first E. I'm confusing myself now. But yeah, you'll find it. Plenty of projects on there that I'm really proud of. And yeah, lots of just like straight beat posts on my Instagram that have been more reflective of my later work since the No Worries drop. I haven't really officially dropped anything since then. So
Cool. Yeah, we'll link all that too in the show notes for everybody to go check out your music, man. So with that, the first question that I typically ask her is, which DAW do you use? How do you answer that question?
non-applicable. Though I'm well versed in Ableton, FL Studio, and Serato Studio, which is usually the DAW I try to evangelize when people ask about, especially making a lot of friends with DJs lately. So they're like getting into production or like inspired by what I do, and I'm like, you should check out Serato Studio because you probably already use Serato. And honestly, their workflow and their development and their feature set and growth is just absolute cinema, as the meme. Not even remotely interested in going back to Ableton or anything else. Like, just such great work, great product, and then their community like connection is just so great too. Like, they're always bringing people into the Serato space, always throwing stuff. Shout out to Sound Collective, really just always holding space for tutorials, deep dives, and just really making a point to share what they have with the producer community and to empower them to make stuff that, literally can change a career.
3 favorite albums.
Okay. Operation Doomsday, Mad Villain. Now I'd have to say, the third one's always tricky. I'm gonna have to go with Anita Baker's Rapture.
That's interesting, man. Yeah, it's like it's kind of the same thing with the listening room that we did together, which is you kind of do these 2 that are really tight and then one that's a little bit out.
Right.
Best music gear purchase you've ever made.
Music gear purchase I've ever made. I'd have to say the 555. SP555.
Something you bought for your music and never used.
I'm really good about acquiring gear. I have a Yamaha SU200 sampler that I got that I never booted up.
Interesting. I don't know what those are. To look it up.
They made like a Fugazi, they have the SU700 as well, which is more like, imagine the Novation circuit, but as like more of a 404.
One habit that sabotages your creativity.
Collecting too many samples.
Something you wish more people understood about music and or production.
It's always on your own terms. We only get in our own heads and fool ourselves out of that.
Who should we interview next on Producer Head?
You know what? Have you interviewed Troublemaker? Troublemaker. I think that would be extra entertaining and extra insightful. But I hope he doesn't let that get in his head too.
A movie that changed the way you think.
About music or in general?
In general.
The Matrix.
You can do it about music if you want to. I didn't mean to limit you there.
That's fair. We'll stick with The Matrix.
Best advice you've actually followed.
Be yourself unapologetically.
What fictional character do you see yourself in?
Master Chief from Halo.
Boom. Well, man, we've made it to the end. That's all that I have for you. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the people listening before we get out of here?
Thanks again for having me, and hope you enjoyed. Hope you got something from this, and hope to see you out there. Hope you keep making music on your own terms. I'm always excited to hear it. Always looking forward to seeing you guys out there. And just make sure you're taking care of yourself in the meantime. Stay blessed, stay safe, and happy sampling.
Right on, man. Well, this has been Toru, and in a way, so are you. That concludes another episode of Producer Head. Thanks so much for your time, man. Peace. That's a wrap on my conversation with Designer Dreams. I really appreciated his emphasis on community over competition and the importance of life outside the studio. As he pointed out, these are overlooked elements of the equation that can transform your music and your perspective as a producer. His journey from bedroom producer to community pillar demonstrates the power of showing up, supporting others, and staying authentic to your sound. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave a rating and review wherever you're listening. This helps Producerhead find its place and its people. Without you, there is no Producerhead. Thanks again for tuning into Producerhead. Subscribe and join our community over at Producerhead.Substack.com so you never miss an episode. Substack subscribers receive exclusive access to the bi-weekly podium and curation of my favorite discoveries on and offline over the past week. You'll also get access to Producerhead Bars, where I share the best of what's been shared with me to help you and other producers in our community grow. The podium and Producerhead Bars are designed to provide immediate inspiration and direct application in your creative process. So, subscribe at Producerhead.Substack.com to receive real inspiration and ideas you can use to elevate your own process today. If you care for the craft, get your exclusive access at Producerhead.Substack.com. This episode was co-produced, engineered, and edited by Matthew Diaz. Big thank you to him. From Producerhead, this is Toru, and in a way, so are you. Peace.